and I were to ask you, what is its branding right now? If you had to define NDA, Modi 3.0 in branding terms, what is the message of the Modi government that you see?
If I were to describe it in one word, it is defiant. It is defying everything in the book to show the world that it is business as usual, that nothing really has changed. We are on firm ground, we are firm in our resolve, and we affirm the right to rule the way we've been ruling for 10 years. I think that is the central theme of every action that has happened so far. The the requirement of partnership aside, the mega image that it wants to portray is we stay confident and we are not either apologetic or changing anything about the way we continue to govern.
But defiance works in the beginning. It can't be the message for the next 5 years, assuming that the government lasts its full term. Over that, also, there's already a debate, Dilip. So before I go to Pavan, uh, where do you think the messaging will head? Because some formulas have been tried before. Hindutva has personality, where Modi himself was the message, has and still will be. National security has. And Hindutva in particular, given the numbers in UP, given the Prime Minister's own, in a sense, falling margin of victory in Varanasi, seems to suggest that it's on the downward curve, although never say never in politics, and anything can happen. What do you think will be or could be the central message of Modi in his third term?
In terms of future looking, and all governments have to be forward looking, I think uh, Prime Minister Modi wants to give the message that the future is in my hands. I will show you multiple things I'm going to do for creating this concept of Viksit Bharat, and that is being, in a sense, the date for it is 2047. So he has bought time, shall I say, for a longer period of time. And that is the image that he wants to create. In fact, Viksit Bharat has been repeated in multiple ways, in multiple formats over the last few days. And I think that is what he is aiming towards.
Pavan, let's bring you in. Do you first believe that Hindutva is over as a political concept or on the decline, or do you actually believe that the BJP and the Prime Minister and the RSS did move the center of politics to the right, to the extent that we saw even parties opposed to the BJP that call themselves secular give a historically low number of tickets to Muslim candidates. We had, the Congress not giving as many tickets to Muslim candidates as it usually does. And ironically, it was Mayawati in Uttar Pradesh who gave the maximum number of tickets to Muslim candidates. Some believe with an eye to cut the non-BJP vote. Is Hindutva over or getting over as a political vote gatherer?
I frankly, Barkha, I don't think so.
Hmm.
Hindutva will be very much part of the elements of India's future political landscape. The manner in which it plays out can change. There was an earlier assumption of the BJP that Hindutva will largely alone spearhead its final sprint to victory. I'm sorry, I'm mixing metaphors. But uh, while Hindutva will remain the calling card of the BJP and the RSS, its appeal or its efficacy to deflect attention from real issues that are now becoming predominant in the common person's priorities has reduced. It appears to be so. To drum it up again uh, is, I think, likely to be counterproductive for the BJP, although it will always remain an undercurrent of their campaign. So, therefore, Hindutva or the BJP or the RSS is not going in. but are they going substantially forward, or is this government going to face new challenges? That is
Hmm.
the question. In
What's
my
your answer?
view,
What's your answer to that question?
in my view, the government, for all its facade of things being as normal as they were in the first two terms, is more than aware that it is on a weak footing. I say that because temperamentally and by experience, the Prime Minister has not been really a consensual figure. He's led governments with absolute majorities both in the state and at the center. And if he continues as though it is business as usual, he may face problems not only in terms of legislation, the passing of legislation, but also in terms of his own popularity and the reliability of some of his allies. In other words, if he pushes a unilateral agenda that is seen to be not to the liking or not congruent with the regional or state interests of his two primary allies, I think he will have to give ground. And I don't think he possesses the great ability for a enlightened compromise. So that is problem number one. Problem number two is that the BJP itself is now no longer as united as it earlier was under the toweringly victorious personality of Prime Minister Modi.
Hmm.
And there are going to be challenges ahead, especially three state assembly elections which are coming up:
Right.
Maharashtra, Haryana, and Jharkhand, where if the BJP does not win two out of three or loses all three, I think there could be voices from within the BJP and the RSS which have so far been disaffected but silent, which may become more overt, which could pose a problem again for the BJP.
Which leads us, sorry to just cut in there, I'll just get a comment from Sandeep, because that leads us to the question of narrative. Sandeep, as all three of you know in this program, politics is about a lot of things, but it's also about telling a story. In 2014, the Prime Minister told a very good story, offering himself as the self made outsider, the son of a tea vendor, who had successfully turned Gujarat around and was now ready for national politics at a time when there was huge disenchantment with the ruling Congress party. In 2019, he redrew the red lines around national security. In 2024, Hindutva plus governance did not yield the kind of results the BJP would have hoped for. As a fan of the Prime Minister, do you believe that the Prime Minister, in the first few weeks of his third term, has failed to tell a new story? In fact, as Dilip says, very consciously, he's repeating the old story as if to say nothing has changed. But is that working in terms of political communication, Sandeep Ghosh?
Barkha, we are hardly into the first week of the Prime Minister's new term. To put it, first of all, I'll preface it to say everything. I don't disagree with anything either Pavanji has said or Dilip has said. I would put it as saying the situation is rather complicated just now.
Hmm.
And what I see today in terms of the communication of BJP, without being a communication expert, consider it to be a holding strategy because he is trying to reinvent what is going to be the communication because the current situation to some extent I think was not anticipated by the prime minister and his immediate associates even as a worst case scenario. They could have thought of coming with a lower certainly not 400 par but something less than 400 par, but they didn't bargain for a 240 odd number which they have got. So, what they would have, to my mind, had planned for, because the opposition was always hell bent to delegitimize this government. If they had got Charso Par also, then you would have heard about EVMs, you would have heard about match fixed elections, etc., to say that it was not a fair election, it was uneven thing, and so he has become the prime minister by default. And so there, they probably had a script ready to say, we couldn't care less. We've got the endorsement, and we are going ahead and doing exactly what we please and what we set out to do. Now that calculation has faltered, so they are having to do a holding on strategy to say it's business as usual, and which is been signaled in many things, including the continuity in the cabinet, and taking it step forward also the speaker's choice. It almost seems like a Modi 2.0 extension. There is no discontinuity which is happening there. But I think he has to figure out a new communication. One thing is what you're communicating. The second bit is, in any communication, what is registering over there. I'll just make two more comments, Barkha. First is only on the Hindutva bit. See, Hindutva has plateaued. It is going to give it diminishing returns. I don't think it is going to, as Pavanji was saying, it will recede, because BJP cannot dilute the Hindutva surge, then they'll lose their core base. As it is, you keep on hearing that the core constituency think that BJP has not done enough for them. So they cannot afford to dilute that, but it's a double-edged sword. If they ride too high on it, you're putting off other people, and all that is going to happen. But coming back to Mr. Modi himself, where I differ slightly with Pavanji is, it's not as if Mr. Modi is not consensual. Mr. Modi is an individual. He does everything to be powerful himself. Now, for that, if he has to strike deals, what he will not do, he will not, Pavanji used a very interesting term, some enlightened something he said. He is not going to make those compromises.
Enlightened compromise.
Compromise. So he's not going to say compromise to give away some of his personal power. He would like to retain his bargaining strength, but for that, whether cosmetic, optics, or whatever he has to do to get people on his side, he can be a charmer. He can get people out on his side. He will do that, but he would like to retain power. He's not a Vajpayee who will say, "Theek hai, I'm not having my way in two things." He would still like to have his say on all five, but
Yeah.
in his own way.
I think that's a very interesting point. Quick reactions from Pavan and Dilip before we play out the first statement from the president's speech. Pavan, to you first. Yes, maybe from within, Mr. Modi doesn't want to compromise, but I think Sandip makes an interesting point. If it's all about retaining power, increasing power, enhancing the power of the individual, Modi will do what it takes, including enlightened compromise.
No. You see, I don't disagree with Sandeep. The question is that he will do what it takes in changed circumstances. It's not that Prime Minister Modi's belief in his personal ability to hold power and act accordingly has changed. The circumstances have changed. And therefore, if he doesn't adjust to them and continues to behave as he did in the past, where NDA meetings were perfunctory or hardly held, where cabinet meetings were like a frozen piece with no voices being heard, I think he will have to radically change his approach. And there is a point that Sandeep made, which I entirely agree with it. Actually, in this third term, the BJP and the RSS are caught on the horns of a big dilemma. In 10 years, they have, in a sense, unleashed a Frankenstein monster, which is the absolute hardcore, I would say even lumpen, very fast growing constituency which is backing even more stridently Hindutva politics. The BJP and the RSS need them as necessary, but they may not be under their control anymore. In which case, if they are a law unto themselves and their behavior is something that could strengthen the coalition, what does Mr. Modi do? Does he jettison his core support? Does he uh, try to dilute and moderate it, in which case he will be seen as Mohan Bhagwat was seen by these very virulent trolls when he met with five Muslim intellectuals and visited a masjid and madrasa in order to perhaps go beyond the very exclusionist approach of the government. It's a genuine problem now
Yeah.
because, for instance, the Bajrang Dal is the fastest growing organization in the Sangh organization,
Hmm.
and it has been more or less intoxicated on the power it has derived by a government that has been both protective and, where necessary,
Yeah.
helpful.